Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit Podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. Hey, summit host, Dr. Mark T. Wade here, founder of Virtual Summit Software and your host here on the Virtual Summit Podcast. And I am really excited about today's episode because I have somebody super special on today who's going to be giving us some amazing summit gems. Before we get started with anything, I just want to say, Alyssa, thanks so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Thank you so much, Mark, for having me on your show. This is a great honor, and it's always really fun to hang out with you.
We do have a lot of fun. Me and Alyssa go back into we met at a conference many years ago called Mindshare, which is hosts a lot of amazing summit hosts, and Alyssa being one of them has done an incredible job. One I am super excited to get into, and it's going to be very interesting and relevant for all of you, but especially for those of you who are listening right now thinking, I have no clue what I'm about to do. Can I do this? Should I do this? I cannot wait for you to tell them your story. Now, before we do that, Alyssa, I want you to go ahead and tell our audience a little bit more about yourself, something special, just so they know a little bit more about you.
Sure. Well, in my business, I give moms empowered clarity by solving the tantrums, the tummy troubles, the picky eating, so that they can just have a really good time with their kid and not have to worry about health. And I guess something awesome about me is that I have a 6-year-old boy who I think is the coolest thing ever.
That is super cool. And you've done a lot, even having the 6-year-old boy, especially around that, actually. You've created quite an amazing program for parents to help their kids, which I'm really excited to talk about as well. Obviously, that's what took you down the road of having your summit, the Health Gut Happy Child Summit, which we're going to get more into as well. But before we even dive into the weeds there, can you let the listeners know where they can find you on social in case they want to reach out and follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. Healthy Gut Happy Child on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook. I have the Healthy Gut Happy Child Summit group, which is a private secret group that I will let you in, answer the questions. And we've got a lot of awesome conversation in there, a ton of support. And I'm also on Facebook in the public. And I have a website, coachalyssa.com, a lot of information there.
Perfect. So everybody should go over there and check Alyssa out. Additionally, you can find all the links to everything she just said and everything else we're going to be talking about over in the show notes at podcast.virtualsummits.com. And additionally, we're going to make sure that all the resources, all the gems that we talk about are going to be over there waiting for you. So you can check that out over there. Just search for Elissa Arnheim over at podcast.virtualsummits.com. So I want to jump into it. We've got some amazing insights to talk about because of your perspective of when you started your first summit. I want you to talk about that experience. Let's actually take me through your initial experience, how this actually happened, because your experience is one I think that most summit hosts can relate to.
All right. So I was starting my business. I had gone to health coaching training, and we had been through a big medical thing in my family. And so I was kind of restarting. And I was watching summits, and I saw this woman who was offering free sessions, free fat loss sessions. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to know a little more about cortisol, belly fat. And so I did one of her free sessions. And in our conversation, she asked me, hey, are you interested in leading a summit? And I was like, yeah, like I had seen one summit, and I was like, yes, like I just decided I was going to go for it. And she was like, well, okay, I coach summits. I teach women how to run their own summits so they can build their businesses. And I signed the contract. I was totally in, and I had no money. I had not been working, and I knew my husband would say no. He would not be supportive of this endeavor at all. And so I didn't tell him. And we're totally over that. But at the time, there was a lot going on, and I didn't tell him. And then I called the coach back, and I was like, hey, I'm all signed up and everything, but I have no money and I can't pay you. What am I going to do? And she said, oh, just run a 6-week program. And she gave me a little coaching, and off I went. Like, I had never run a program online. I had never marketed anything. And I ran a 6-week program that started 3 weeks later in order to pay this woman. And then a few months later, I was running this summit, and it was so amazing. It was like, I was waking up every morning at 5, like so driven to make this a success. And of course, I'm getting up super early because like as soon as everyone else gets up, it's mayhem, dog, kid, everybody. So, wow, I'm glad I did it, but it was pretty scary at the beginning.
Virtual Summits software makes hosting a summit easier than ever. The only software in the world designed specifically for hosting a summit lets you set up a summit in a matter of hours with no tech skill or team needed. You can try out the Virtual Summits software free at virtualsummits.com. But hurry, this is a limited offer.
I mean, this is such an incredible story, which is why I think it's so important for our summit hosts listening in right now to hear this is, I mean, and I'm just going to recap it in my own words here. So you saw that there was a summit that you didn't even really fully understand or know what a summit was or what it was going to take. So you almost had a little bit of that, they say like ignorance is bliss. Like you didn't know how difficult or challenging it was going to be going into it, but you knew they were impactful and valuable. They could help you, your business, and then of course the people you serve. So you decided to jump into it, and you overcame adversity in the fact that, you were just getting started online business. And like many of our summit hosts listening right now, resources and finances, that's a challenge. That's a real truth, a real difficulty, but you didn't let it hold you back. You said, I'm going to do this. You moved forward with it. You found a way. You were resourceful, which I think is a key characteristic in entrepreneurship. You were resourceful, found a way to make it happen. You moved forward. And, you had to do a little white lie with your husband, but you guys patched that. Everything's good and great to go. But now what I want to get into is what happened after you ran the summit. So what were the results? If we can get into some of the specifics of that, like what were some of the results of your summit?
Yeah, well, the summit was awesome. Not only was it super fun and like connected me with all of these people that cared about the same stuff that I cared about, I generated over 4,000 people on my list. I went from not having a list, like being I didn't know anything about technology. Like I wasn't even on Facebook at all. And suddenly I had a Facebook group and I had 4,000 people on my email list. And so then I just started emailing them and just kind of sharing what I cared about, sharing these important pieces of how you heal your child's gut, why it's been important in my life, what has opened up, and how they can have it too. It was definitely an exploration of how to be vulnerable, honestly, because there was a lot that I wasn't sharing at first. I was kind of afraid of upsetting people or alienating people or just revealing too much, right? But the more comfortable I got in the position that I was suddenly in, the more I could share, the more comfortable I was sharing the stuff that actually really mattered and connecting with people. And so then I would start saying, hit reply. If this matters to you, hit reply. Then I started talking to a lot of people. I didn't even know what I was going to sell. Like I'm supposed to be generating a business and but I was so focused on the summit that when I got to the other side of the summit, I was like, oh gosh, now what do I do? Like, I got to do something with this. I barely covered my costs. So I'm kind of still in the same place. And so then I put together another 6-week program because I had done that, like to even start this whole process. And I thought, okay, well, that's what I know how to do. So I did that. And then I did another. Yeah. And it kind of went from there. And when we were chatting earlier and I was considering different things that you're going to talk about, I was thinking about what do I wish I had known earlier? And that was definitely, like you're going to need something to sell to the people that want to learn from you. Like, be ready for that. Be ready for to have those conversations in a way that really communicates how urgent it is that they do follow that inkling they've had that's gotten them to connect with me, because it is really important. And that was something that I was really hesitant about. Like, I just really didn't have a lot of confidence stepping out from the summit. The summit was great. Like, once I did that, I wanted to do that over and over again. But really, I needed to develop this other part of my business where I actually could share what was going to really change people's lives. That's taken me a couple years.
Well, I mean, creating a business is not easy no matter what. So a couple years in is a pretty stellar way to make it happen, especially when you can jumpstart it. And I've got some questions actually on that. I want to know, what was the challenge that you found going from like not having a business to all of a sudden you now have, 4,000 people looking to you for advice and information. You're going, I don't have anything to sell. I need to create something to sell. I now have 4,000 people asking me. But what were some of the challenges that you felt, other than financially, like some of the specifics that our summit hosts may be going through on the other side of their summit?
Yeah, I really felt a lot of pressure to do something big. Like, it felt like I had just like blasted in on the scene and that I had to keep going with that kind of momentum. And there was no structure. Like, there's a structure for building a summit. And then it's like you're running up the ramp and you like blast off, and then you're out there in space like, oh, what do I do next? And feeling like if I fall, then I'm failing. And seriously, every single, I guess you could call them failures, but every time I fall, it's like I had to fall to figure out, oh yeah, now I get it. Whether it's like not sending the email that I could have sent that would have been really helpful, or whatever it is. I feel like there are like so many different things that I've done not optimally that then I learned from.
Well, that's the best way to do it. I mean, obviously, if we can tap into somebody's experience or knowledge and overcome some of those failures ahead of time, that's even better. But we learn those lessons by falling or failing forward, which is exactly what you did, moving forward. And you've done an incredible job with that. And I also like to point out one of the gems that you dropped that we just kind of glossed right over, which is the aspect of being vulnerable. So I know a lot of our summit hosts out there, they're in very similar shoes as yours. And I've even interviewed some of them, some of the summit hosts on this podcast who have had huge successes that they said, at the beginning, like, I had a bit of that imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to actually be hosting this? Who am I to be running this platform? But at the end of the day, like, each and every one of us has a message we need to get out to the world. And the summit is a great way to do that. But the point you made, which is so important, is being vulnerable, being willing to make that failure and fall forward, because there's so much greatness that we can achieve and accomplish from that. So being vulnerable, both in your decisions to take on kind of these bigger actions, these big goals, if you will, but also, like you mentioned, Alyssa, with being vulnerable when you're talking to your attendees, to your community, to your tribe. And this is what I really want to actually just put a little asterisk on this is, a lot of times when we get this momentum going, I'm guilty as charged as well. We start to feel like, okay, now I have to represent myself as the expert, or as I am this big established summit host. And we lose a little bit of that vulnerability where you just mentioned, and I can't support enough what you just said, that when you show that vulnerability, people love you and follow you so much more from that. Have you noticed that at all with your
totally. Tribe? It's the stuff going on in my life that I'm thinking, like, this is exactly what is important. I don't want to upset anyone at the school or my neighbors or, and I'm like, I write the email and then I'm all sweaty. Like, should I send it? Should I not send it? Like seriously getting the sweats. And those are the ones that I get so much response. Like so many people are like typing in, thank you, thank you, thank you. And like sending their stories. And I mean, the hugest thing that I feel like I've been able to accomplish by actually doing summits and expanding how I can connect with people is that there are so many people out there that are all by themselves, wondering if they're doing it right, wondering why they're all by themselves. And I get to connect with them. Like I get to support so many people. So that's what really, really pushes me to like, push the envelope and stick my neck out.
Be sure to check out the speaker management tool inside your virtual summit software, which lets you quickly and easily recruit and manage your speakers on your virtual summit, literally eliminating hundreds of hours of work. Get more information at virtualsummits.com.
You bring up another amazing gem, which is taking a stand. Like we all know that like the controversial topics or subjects, they bring more attention to it. But what I think is even more important, when you know something inside of you that's important, that needs to get out to the world, and you keep it inside or you kind of sugarcoat it or you bring it down, you're doing the whole world a disservice. And as strongly as I feel about summits, which is, I believe, the reason I believe summits are one of the most important tools there are, is because there are people suffering every day, and summits allow them to get the solution to that problem from some of the top minds in the world with whom they may have never had access to before. So you summit hosts out there, if you're listening to this, don't dim your light, don't tone it down, go full out. And I've seen personally, both in my summits and the summits I've helped, just like Alyssa has mentioned here, the more kind of you let your voice shine through, and the more you kind of you go out there and you put your flag in the sand and say, this is what I stand for, then your community, your tribe, they'll come running. They'll come to you. And a summit is a really great way to put a big flag out there. And actually, let's bring this to the other side, because I'm all about transparency here on this podcast, as you and the listeners know. Let's talk about the opposite side of this. When we are transparent and we do put our flag in the sand, we get some haters too, don't we? Can you talk?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Let's talk about an experience.
I probably the most recent one I have a program called 8 Days to Freedom from Picky Eating. And I had someone, after the program started, she sent me this email. And she just like blasted in, like talking about litigation to get her $97 back. And like how it's a bunch of hoo-ha and she can't believe it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, of course we'll give you your money back. Like, like it wasn't a good fit. Oh, here's another funny one. Actually, last summer, I had this funny experience where I took my little boy out for ice cream with his school friends on the last day of school. And we actually don't eat processed sugar on a normal basis. He doesn't eat more than 25, or either of us, more than 25 grams of sugar in a day. So going out for ice cream was like blowing it all out of the water. It was like huge treat. Anyway, we get there and I had this like crazy, like sugar monster eruption. And it was like, the kids weren't finishing their ice cream cones. And I was like, oh, I'll take that. And I was like eating ice cream like a maniac. And then I was like super sick for like days afterward. And anyway, I sent an email about it, right? Like, I'm not perfect. Like I talk about like diet and gut health, and I like totally binged on ice cream, like eating little kids like leftover ice creams, right? And like, it was totally crazy. Anyway, I got this letter or this email from a woman who was like totally shaming me. Like, I can't believe you did that. It was really funny. And she was like, I'm unsubscribing. I can't believe you. So anyway, it's like, and it's okay. It's like, okay, I hit a nerve. I wonder, maybe she has a problem with ice cream too. Like, and I can love her about it, right? Like, maybe she'll be back and I can really connect with her. So when people like, and there are a couple other recent disgruntled kind of emails that I got. And usually what I do is I just like send an email back saying, oh my gosh, I totally get that. Can we talk? And then I make a special time where I can connect and get on the phone with them, because usually we have a lot more to connect because I hit a nerve.
I mean, this is such great information here. There's like several aspects of this I want to go into. As a summit host like this, you just have to know that one, you're going to be creating a large amount of attention in a short amount of time. And unfortunately, there are people in the world who are just unhappy, and they're looking for ways. We're kind of going in the philosophical or emotional aspect of it, of summits right now, but I think this is so important. We haven't talked about this yet, but there's so many people out there that are suffering and they're just unhappy, and they're looking for ways to vent or let that off. One of my best friends, John Lee Dumas over at Entrepreneurs on Fire, he talks about all the time how you don't know what that person's going through. Like, they could have just lost, a loved one. They could have just had their house repossessed or whatever. You don't know what they're going through. But with hosting a summit, you are going to get a large amount of communication in general. You're going to have people contacting you a lot. So be prepared, be ready to handle that communication aspect. But you're also going to get some negative and mean emails. And it's okay. It hurts and it's hard. And I want to ask you a specific question on how you deal with that in a second. But like one of my partners in one of my other businesses, she's always kill them with kindness, which is exactly what it sounds like you're doing, because people are expecting you to come back and be confrontational, and they are ready. Their defenses are up. And honestly, you're not going to convince them to change the way they're thinking. However, if you show them that you're open to listening to what they're thinking, I mean, the boundaries just drop. And it's incredible. So remember that when you're setting up either your customer service team, or if you're going to be the one handling all the emails, you're going to get a lot of negative ones, and it's not you. It's not your summit. Don't think that you got to go run off and change, how you're doing it or how you're saying it. Just know that you are taking a stand for something, which is good to get those emails, because you're making that kind of reach. But be prepared to handle those. So how do you deal with that? Because all those of us who are kind of in the spotlight, that we have our flag in the sand, we're getting a lot of kind of negative emails. We get a lot more negative than we do positive, unfortunately. Yeah. The positive is out there, right? They're just not the ones emailing. So what do you do to kind of stay positive and on top of it?
Well, I keep in mind that when I'm putting on a summit, people are signing up for a summit because they want solutions. Like, they're uncomfortable enough that they're going to actually sign up for something and spend their time looking at it because they're in pain in some way. And so if the solutions they're getting aren't applicable for some reason, if maybe it's incredibly frustrating and painful because they see the solutions and they, for some reason, are not able to play them out in their life. They can't use the information, or they're afraid to, or there are barriers. And that's really what's so upsetting to them. Like, I can relate. I can totally relate to having barriers in your life. And so it's easy for me to be okay with that. And so, like I said, in some situations, when they've been on my list for a while, when we have kind of a longer relationship, then I'll put it out, okay, maybe I struck a nerve and I want to find out more about this person and listen to them. And then we'll get on the phone. Sometimes it's clear that it's just like a lot of negative energy, and it's like, oh well, like, okay, here's your money back. Okay, goodbye. I wish you well. And I can do that totally in a spirit of kindness and love. And, when you're describing that, kill them with kindness, I used to work retail a long time ago, and I loved the angry customers. Like, I loved when I would get to talk to them and listen to them and see them smile, and they'd walk out the door, not able to be angry anymore. It just gave me so much satisfaction. And so I get to use that too. I get to do that now. I mean, it's part of everyday life, but it's like we're all doing it all over the place.
Yeah, you are a much better person than I am. So I I have the hardest time with this. And I know, this is me, my personality. A lot of the summit hosts are going to be out there too. What I've had to do for me in my personal situation, because I know I invest and I put so much of me into everything I do, whether it's this podcast or my virtual summit software or, a course I've created, that when I get that negative feedback, it hurts. It hurts me inside. And sometimes I have a difficulty overcoming that and using the kill 'em with kindness. So that's my partner who does that. And if you can do that like Alyssa can right here, then you are so much further ahead on being able to create an amazing community and tribe. Now, if you're like me over here where you're biting your tongue and you want to go to combat right away, one of the things that I've done, two things that I'll give you to give our audience right now, that I've done to kind of help overcome this is, one, have canned templates or responses so that I'm not, for example, just typing while I'm emotionally charged. That can help. It's not necessarily the best solution, but it's better than probably what I would have said otherwise. The other one, when you get to the point where you can do this, which is is the one I use the most now, is I have a customer support team. I have people that are built on kindness, like Alyssa right here. They genuinely want to make people happy. And so they actually solve the problems and they find win-win. They're given, the amount of what they can do, and they'll go over the top to make it happen. So this is a really good conversation. As we're starting to kind of wrap this up, I'm glad we've gone down this angle here, Alyssa, because this is real life. This is real summit life, if you will. And this is a fully transparent episode right here. And for you summit hosts out there, we're not trying to discourage you from wherever you're at in your path. And we're going to wrap this up with some really good knowledge on why. But it's important to know going into something like this, because Alyssa, as she mentioned at the beginning of the episode, she jumped into it. She just jumped into the deep end. She had no idea what was coming. She didn't realize how much work, time, or energy it was going to be. And that sometimes is honestly easier, because by the time that happens, you're already in it and you're moving forward. But it is good for you guys to know that this is coming, so you can prepare for it. You can be mentally, physically, technically, whatever, prepared for this. So Alyssa, what I'd like to kind of start wrapping us up with is, did you decide to do another summit? Was it valuable enough to move forward and do it again? And if so, why?
Oh yeah, it totally was. It totally was. Like, it was super fun for me. Like, I love interviewing people. I love hearing what comes up during the conversation and sharing it. I mean, summits are free, most of them. Like, I love giving out this content for free. And then so many people want to keep it. Like, it works out really well. I've covered both of my summits. So I did another summit. I couldn't wait to do another summit. Both of them covered their costs. So it was good that way. I just love them. So there was no question I was going to do another one. And I'm doing another one later in May this year, later in the spring. So psyched for that. And I think I'm going to try a little bit of a different format, maybe more conversational. So absolutely.
You bring up several great points here, and I'm stoked to hear that you're continuing to do them. You got the summit bug as well, but you bring up several great points. So when you say that the summits covered their cost, what that is for us marketers, that's called a self-liquidating offer. Summits are one of the only tools out there that actually can provide a self-liquidating offer. And what that means is, like, normally if you're going to generate a list, you're going to do lead generation, you're going to bring subscribers onto your email list. If you're using paid ads, there's obviously a cost to that. Now, most people just run that cost into whatever their back end or whatever they're going to sell is and say, this is the cost of the sale. Mm-hmm. With summits, on the other hand, the people who sign up for the summit typically will have enough of the people purchase the ongoing access or whatever the upgrade is that the summit pays for itself, not just the ad spend, but additionally, usually the other resources. And it's one of the most amazing things possible. Now, I also want to clarify here with this is, most often, like summits, one of the more powerful aspects of it is when you're building that list, you have that engaged audience. Now this sets you up for the next step, which is your monetization phase, right, which Alyssa talked about. You should have that set up and ready to go before you do your summit, but if not, be ready to launch something after your summit, because you have a list of engaged quality people who are looking to you for something else. So have something to sell them. Now, Alyssa, what I'd actually like, do you have any examples of relationships, maybe one in particular that came from your summit that has progressed and become a benefit either for you personally or for your business from doing the summits?
Yeah, absolutely. So many, actually. One of my summit guests from the first year of the Healthy Gut, Happy Child Summit, Dr. Nasha Winters, I brought her in as a naturopath for my little boy. She's like an amazing, amazing practitioner. And then through her, I met another amazing practitioner, Dr. Grace Liu, who I've become really close friends with. She's one of my mentors now, and I interviewed her in my next summit. I mean, and that's just one example. Like, there are so many examples from my summits that have developed into really significant relationships in my life. It's incredible.
With the Ever Summit feature inside the Virtual Summit software, you can rerun your summit as if it were live, ongoing forever with one click of a button. This now lets you continue to use your summit forever, bringing in qualified and engaged leads every month into your business. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
I love it. I love hearing that, because it is so true. I mean, some of my more impactful ongoing business relationships for sure come from interviewing people. There's something magical that happens when you sit across from each other and you talk about a topic that you both have a connection and an interest on. I mean, for me, a lot of times I get to the end of it and it's kind of like, anything you ever need, you just let me know, I'm there for you, and vice versa. So I love to hear that. And I love to let the summit hosts know that that's a huge opportunity that's sitting there waiting for you as well. And again, as we kind of wrap this out, I want to ask, like, if you, on a positive note here, do you have an example of someone that either found you on a summit that you've spoken on, or on your summit that's gone through kind of this contact with you and has their life changed for the better from it?
Yeah, I do, actually. So this woman, Sarah, she actually, after I ran my first summit, she saw I started being interviewed on other summits. That's another thing that happens. It's like, once you run a summit, people are like, oh, I'm going to interview you. And so I was on another summit, and that's where she saw me. And she started emailing me, and we were talking, and she did a 6-week intensive with me privately, and we stayed in touch. And a year later, she has completed her training to be a health coach because she wanted to do what I did for her. And she's like, she's working, and she just sent me an email saying, hey, I'm saving up because I want to work with you again. So these are long relationships that I'm developing, all from like a single summit interview that people catch.
That's just incredible right there. I mean, that is truly a life change. You've changed the direction of this person's life. And that's amazing. And again, I always love hearing these kind of stories, because again, for me, I truly believe summits are more than just lead generation. They're more than just income. Of course, they're great at those. And it's more than just the networking. We're literally changing people's lives. And I actually have a KPI for all of my summits. So a key performance indicator above and beyond the emails and the income. And it's lives changed. How many people reach out in an email and say, this right here really changed my life. And that's what me and my team want to focus on. And I highly recommend all of you listening to this, put that down there. It doesn't necessarily have to be your first, key KPI, but I promise you, if you start to move that towards the top and you start to keep that in mind as you're building out your summit and you're doing the interviews, you're going to impact more people, which is just going to really increase the success of your summit in the long run. Alyssa, this has been an absolute incredible interview. Before we get going, though, I really would like to allow our summit hosts listening in here to reach out to you. I'm sure that we've got people that would love to have you as a guest on their upcoming summits. Could you give us 1 or 2 topics that you would like to be interviewed on, and the best way to get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you want to know how to get children to fall in love with eating fermented vegetables, totally not kidding here, talk to me. I talk about this all the time and it totally works. I have lots of success stories. And we also talk about gut health, of course, healing children's guts for moms that are aware of gut health, that it can impact and heal their kids' skin issues and their asthma and allergies and all the tummy stuff and attitude, a lot of anxiety and tantrums and stuff like that. It's all in your gut, and it's reversible. So talk to me about those things, picky eating, all of it. I love it.
That's amazing. And we'll have links over to Alyssa so you can get in touch with her over in the show notes, podcast.virtualsummits.com. You can check out Alyssa over there. And then as we wrap this up, Alyssa, is there any kind of final words of wisdom that you think our summit hosts should know as they prepare to go into their summit?
Yeah, keep going. Like when you hear a no, it's not the end of the road. You just ask, oh, okay, what's next? Like, oh, who else do you know that would be a good fit for my summit? Or where else should I look? Or, there just aren't dead ends. So keep going. Keep going. It's going to be awesome. Keep going.
Absolutely love it. Thank you again. Thank you to all our virtual summit hosts that are listening into this podcast. Looking forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.